Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you all see me, hear me? You can drop a message on chat so I can get a confirmation. Okay, thank you so much for the response. And I think we'll get started without, I think many of them have said yes. Maybe you can check your uh, audio connection because majority of them can hear me. So I think that's good enough, right? Okay, so let me start. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. So let me just share my screen and I would like a confirmation whether you can see my presentation or not. Just a second. Okay, is it visible? Can I get a confirmation on chat as well if my presentation is visible? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, so I think since my screen is also shared, and you're able to see it, I think we can get ahead and we can get started with it. Give me 2 minutes. One moment. I'll just confirm this one. Just a minute, please. Okay. So, firstly, thank you all for joining. I hope my screen is still visible. And we welcome you to JBM's UAE e-invoicing related webinar. And just a few things I'll discuss about our meeting session today and then how our agenda is also going to go. So, firstly, since this is a webinar, we have currently disabled audio capability right now. So what we'll do is we will have chat. So if you have any queries or questions, you can drop a message on the chat. If there is any issue with the screen as well or any net, you can drop a message on the chat. My colleagues will come and inform me. Furthermore, by the end of the session, we will keep a last 10 to 15-minute session where we will discuss all your questions and your queries, and we'll try to take up as much as possible. And any further questions, if you're not able to cover up, we will definitely take it up maybe after the session or if you share by email. All right, so I think we're good to go. So let us get started. Right, perfect. So as you can see over here, this session that we have kept for you all over here is designed to move you from the awareness stage to readiness stage. So I think e-invoicing is something that is currently being spoken about a lot for the past couple of months. So many webinars, seminars have been conducted on this. So JBM has also decided to, conduct this webinar. So what we are planning to do is we are aiming to help you all clearly understand your regulatory obligation and how to activate e-invoicing within JBM itself. So our agenda is going to be divided into 4 different segments. So the first one, we'll be talking about the UAE invoicing overview. So in this, we'll be covering up basic concepts of e-invoicing, about 5 corner model, PEPAL, and many more down the line. So this is just a basic overview, which many of you might be aware of, but this is still more of a knowledge transfer related session. And in the second segment, we'll be talking about the e-invoicing model. So here I'll be getting more into the technical aspects about the role of an ASP, or who is an ASP in the first place, which is the accredited service provider, how the 5 corner model works, and what are the other regulatory requirements or mandatory fields that you will have to consider while you're doing the e-invoicing framework. And furthermore, we will also explore the understanding of JBM's e-invoicing. So what JBM is going to do to ensure that your experience is smooth and consistent in this e-invoicing journey, and to bring you all or transition into this e-invoicing framework. That's the third segment where I'll be explaining more about it. In the fourth segment, we will be covering up the operational impact and next steps. So how will it impact your organization, your ERP solution? What steps you will have to take to ensure that you are ready for this entire journey is what I'll be covering up in the fourth segment. And finally, we'll open up to Q&A session. Now that the agenda is clear, I think we can proceed forward. So, like I mentioned, the first session will be about UAE's e-invoicing overview. So we'll understand a couple of basic concepts, which most of you might be aware of, but still, let us try understanding what e-invoicing is at a very basic level. So, e-invoicing is not about sending invoices as PDFs by email, or sharing any invoice details in any unstructured or HTML format. So the main shift is that invoice data has to now be exchanged in a structured electronic format, so that systems between one system to another, there is proper reading, validation, and processing that information automatically between two systems. So right now, moving from the traditional PDF invoice, the focus is now more on a structured e-invoice framework, where we move from basically the e-invoice will move between the supplier buyer in the tax ecosystem in a more compliant way. So in a simple term, UAE invoicing is basically moving from the manual or traditional PDF invoice to a more system to system tax compliant invoice exchange between two systems. So this is what e-invoicing basically means. But the next question does come: why UAE introduced e-invoicing? Why did this initiative come? So this initiative is not just a tax compliant change. It is part of the UAE's broader move towards digital transformation, to have better improved transparency and a better taxpayer experience as well. So of course, to ensure that there is more stronger compliant visibility, ensuring that invoice transactions are going effectively between the system all the way till the government server as well. And, like I mentioned earlier, to move from the manual invoice handling to a more structured system-driven invoice exchange is what is more important. And other than that, also, I think a lot of you can also vouch for this. It really reduces your manual processing and reconciliation process as well. So this improves your business efficiency so that it reduces time. And coming into this e-invoice framework gives you a very simpler process of submitting the invoice, and it directly goes to the FTA portal as well. So Of course, the taxpayer experience is also simplified. And also another good thing is it reduces the tax gap. So what it does is it does help strengthen the VAT compliance and reduce any risk of unreported or incorrect transactions, which could happen or would happen in the earlier stages. But now going into this, since it will be more system driven, there will be no room for incorrect transactions, or even if there is, system would be able to validate and process it before you submitted finally. So going from why e-invoicing was introduced in the first place to the framework itself, right? So this is what UAE has done. UAE has currently adopted a decentralized e-invoicing framework, or in other words, it's called as DCT or the five-corner model. So under this approach, the invoice exchange actually happens through an ASP, which is called as an accredited service provider, using the PEPAL interoperability network. So I'll be explaining a little bit about the PEPAL in some time, but I just wanted to mention that a lot of countries in around the world, such as India, Saudi, have implemented e-invoicing framework. So it is time that even UAE is going into this framework. And coming to the PEPAL-based network itself, so UAE has appointed Open PEPAL. So that is the name of the organization which introduced the PEPAL network. So this was actually a standardized framework which basically allowed business software system to securely, exchange electronic documents, mainly orders and invoices. So I think it had started around 2008 to 2012, and why UAE has appointed this is because it will ensure that the systems are compatible and bring all the invoices in a structured format, because we know that most of your organizations will be having different maybe software systems, and you may be using the invoice formats would be different. So coming into this specific PEPAL network will ensure that your invoice is coming in a structured, standardized format as mentioned by them, and it is an international standard as well. So it ensures that there is a single connection to seamlessly trade with partners anywhere around the world, especially if you're involved in the PEPAL network. So I'll be explaining more about how this network is important in the e-invoicing framework. So this is something that I wanted to explain just to give you a better understanding. So right now, like I mentioned, of course, the standardized invoice format. So it allows only a specific format for your e-invoicing. There is a structured XML format, and I'll be explaining a little bit more about the mandatory fields and validations as well. Furthermore, right now the scope is applicable to B2B and B2G, that is business to business and business to government transactions. And there is, of course, the scope is broader. So I'll be explaining that in the next slide as well. And of course, like I mentioned, this dedicated governance structure will actually give you more better understanding of how the e-invoicing framework will work, and ensures that there is a secure exchange of invoices between systems. So coming to the rollout timeline, I think most of you would be aware of this as well. So this slide, I'm going to highlight some of the key rollout milestones that was announced for UAE invoicing, which most of you might be aware of as well. So implementation phase will begin with the pilot phase starting from 1st of July 2026. But this is for pilot companies or select companies who have volunteered to start with the UAE invoicing implementation. However, after that, for phase one entities, the ASP appointment deadline will be 30th of October 2026. So earlier, the date was, I think, by 1st of July itself, the ASP appointment should be done. But right now, given the current scenario and the situation, the ministry has decided to postpone the date to 30th of October 2026, so that because a lot of ASPs are still in pipeline, so they are giving enough time, and giving enough time for a lot of other ASPs in pipeline for their readiness as well, so that they can also come into the picture. Followed by 1st of Jan 2027 will be where the go live starts for phase one entities. So a question comes, yes, what is phase one, phase two? So phase one entities basically refers to the larger businesses where their annual revenue is equal to or greater than AED 15 million. So for them, ASV appointment deadline is 30th of October, and for UAE in e-invoicing go live, it will be from 1st of Jan 2027. So followed by that, we have the ASV appointment for phase 2 and phase 3 entities will be from 31st of March 2027. So any organizations or small size organizations where they have an annual revenue of less than 50 million will have a deadline till 31st of March 2027 to appoint their ASVs. And furthermore, 1st of July 2027 is where the go live actually begins for phase 2 entities. For phase 3, it's referring to the government-based entities. So from 1st of October 2027, the go live will begin for government-based entities. Yeah, so this is just a table showing the phases, that is those involved in the pilot program, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, entities and applicability. So you can take a screenshot if you would like to refer to it. Otherwise, we can even share the presentation. Coming to the scope and applicability. So, of course, I'll just mention over here that this is something that we have researched and found out. Of course, the scope is more broader, and as your organization will already be aware of the subjected changes and what will be applicable as well. So, right now, the scope of UAE invoicing, like I mentioned, will be applicable for B2B and B2G related transactions for both sales and purchases. As of now, B2C related transactions have been excluded. So a question may come from a lot of organizations that whether uh, even if your organization is dealing with B2C related sales transactions, are you still coming under the e-invoicing framework? For B2C transactions, no. But however, your purchases may be B2B. So in that case, you'll have to review that properly. And because if it is B2B, your purchases are related to B2B, then yes, you will still come under the e-invoicing framework. Other than that, so all businesses operating in the UAE, so if you're a mainland-based company, free zone company, VAT registered, unregistered, you are still applicable for you are under the scope of UAE invoicing itself. And even foreign businesses registered for VAT. So even if there are businesses outside of the UAE, but they're registered for VAT in the UAE, you are still coming under the UAE invoicing scope. And of course, taxable supplies, 5%, 0% out of scope, all of that will come under the e-invoicing scope. There are certain exemptions that the government has currently mandated. The first one being the import of goods and services has been exempted. Government entities acting in a sovereign capacity, meaning that if the organization is basically focused on issuing passports or licenses, then those will be out of scope for the e-invoicing process. Then, of course, there is intra-VAT group transactions. So this has been currently exempted for a period of 24 months. So till 31st December 2028, it has been exempted. However, you will have to keep track of the ministry's information or guidelines because it can change as time comes. So right now it has been exempted till 31st of December 2028. Furthermore, investment holding companies, any air cargo related services. So for this also, air cargo related services, it has been exempted for a period of 24 months till 31st December 2028. However, like I mentioned earlier, changes can come. So you can expect that you have to keep in, you have to ensure that, you're up to date with the guidelines because every few months the FDA does send out a set of guidelines on their, on changes or any new information. So for now, it has been exempted till 31st December 2028. But however, after that, it may be introduced. And for international passenger transportation, this currently is permanently exempted. So this is just a brief overview I'm giving of the scope and applicability and exemptions. However, for any specific tax related treatment or applicability, we do advise that you can consult your tax advisor or your tax consultant for more details, because there's a more broader scope other than this. So you can consult them to understand whether, it is applicable for e-invoicing submission or not. Right. Coming to the next part, which is the penalties as per Cabinet Decision 106 of 2025. So, for certain violations as part of the e-invoicing implementation, if there are certain things that you have not done, like in as the time comes. So, I have mentioned a timeline and the penalty on failure as well in AED. So, for failure to appointing an ASP between the specific timeline, as I had mentioned earlier as well, there will be a penalty of 5,000 dirhams per month and so on. So there is more information over here. Failure to implement system, to issue an e-invoice within the 14 days, or issue an e-credit note, or failure to notify FT of any system failures. So there's a timeline that I've given and the penalty as well. So you can take a screenshot of this as well, so that you are aware of certain violations or penalties that have been given by the government themselves. So even if there are changes in your registered data as well, like your name, address, it has to be notified to the ASP, and failure to comply to that will result in within a 5 business day timeline, it will result in 1,000 dirhams per day charged for failing to keep your system records up to date. So you can take a screenshot of this so that you are aware of it. Again, for further information or any changes, of course, you can do consult your tax advisor or your tax consultant. Next part or next segment is about the e-invoicing model itself. So here we will understand more about how UAE e-invoicing works. So this is the UAE invoicing 5 corner model, which I think many of you might have seen in a lot of websites or in the FTA website as well. So we have just redesigned it over here, and I'll just explain simply how this works. So we can just understand that this is the user journey, this is the ASP layer, and this is the ministry layer, which is the government server. So to simply put, actually, there are 5 different corners over here. So I've already highlighted that over here as well. So seller will be corner 1, corner 2 will be the sender ASP, corner 3 will be the buyer ASP, corner 4 is the buyer themselves, and corner 5 is FT itself, or the access point where it will collect and validate the data. So simply put, actually, I'll just explain how this works. So this is not something that you'll have to worry about, but this is just an overview to understand how this e-invoicing is going to work with this 5 corner model. So as a seller or a buyer, if you are situated here, you will be, of course, using your accounting systems or your ERP solutions where you are, submitting your invoices or you're receiving your purchase-based invoices. So when you're using the seller-based ERP, of course, you will be submitting the invoice through the system. And if you have appointed the respective ASP, the appointed ASP will first validate and process and check whether your invoice is in the right format, whether your mandatory fields are available or not. So if it is validated here, the next step it will do is through the open PayPal network. That's why I mentioned being part of the PayPal network is very important, because this is the only way where you can actually transmit your e-invoices, right? So through the open PayPal network, the sender ASP will first check whether the customer or the buyer related details are actually there within the directory or not. So it first verifies and checks whether the buyer details are available in the directory. And if not, it will of course send a validation. If it is available, it will confirm and then send the e-invoice directly to the buyer ASP, which is the corner 3. So it will send in a structured XML format, which I've marked over here. And along with that, it doesn't just send it to the buyer ASP, which is corner 3. It also sends the TDD. TDD stands for tax data document. So it will send that to corner 5, which is the FTA. And now, once that is done, the buyer ASP will, of course, receive this validated invoice. It will again process it. Again, it will check whether the mandatory fields are available, whether it is in a correct format or not. So a second level of validation takes place. And if everything is proper, it will only then send the TDD from their side, which is corner 3 all the way till corner 5. So I can tell you right now itself that the corner 5 or the FTA collects not only data from the sender ASP, but it also collects data from buyer ASP so that there is a reconciliation actually taking place. So the corner 5, which is the FTA, also sends back something called as an MLS. MLS stands for message level status, confirming that the data that they've received is actually has actually been received there. All right. So this is an MLS that comes back from the FTA to both corner 2 and corner 3. So after the validated invoice is received from the buyer side, it will get captured in your receiver's ERP. So of course, even in your receiver ERP as well, they should be able to appoint your ASP, and through the ASP itself, the data will get captured and the buyer, which is the corner 4, will be able to access it. So other than that, also the FTA just collects and validates this in the corner 5 level, which sends back the MLS as well. But finally, it will get stored in the CDP, which stands for the Central Data Platform, where all the processed corner 2 and corner 3 data will be available. So this is the e-invoicing submission process that the UAE government has adopted, which is the 5-corner model. Now, I discussed about the 5-corner model and the ASP layer as well. So you might be wondering, what exactly is the role of an ASP? What do they do exactly, right? So ASP is actually the heart of all of this, because the actual transmission, the validation, the invoice exchange does happen through this layer itself with the help of the PEPAL network. So what does an ASP actually do? ASP stands for Accredited Service Provider. So some of the tasks that it would do is invoice generation. So supplier would obviously create an invoice in their system, but of course, each ERP solution will have their own set of formats. So of course, the invoice generation or converting it into the structured XML format is done through the ASP itself. And of course, there are two ASPs involved. There is a sender ASP and a buyer ASP. So in both segments, the validation, verifying that whether the invoice format is correct or not, whether it meets the compliance with its requirements, will be checked in the ASP layer. Furthermore, like I mentioned, because the ASP is within the PEPAL interoperability network, you can rest assured that the e-invoices will be securely transmitted from one system to another, and it happens quite quickly as well. Furthermore, we also have, like I mentioned, the receiver ASP processing as well. And of course, the submission to the FTA is also very important, where FTA will finally collect the verified data from both corner 2 and corner 3. And any type of error, so for example, if there are missing fields or incorrect data, all of this error handling will be done in the ASP layer itself. So it will notify you saying that there are some issues in your e-invoice. You will have to rectify it, you'll have to correct it, and then you can resubmit it again. So this is the role of an ASP, because this is the actual crucial place where all this transmission and validation takes place. So in this, actually, as per the government, they have mandated around 51. So there are 51 mandatory fields required in a tax invoice. And these are some of the information that you can actually see. So what I mean to say over here is that, so this is not something that you'll have to, by heart or anything. This is something that we have given just for information purpose. We are happy to announce that JBM is having all of this information in your standard invoice itself. But however, if any of non-JBM users are available in the session, so you will have to verify and check whether your invoice details, such as your number, date, seller information, buyer information, invoice totals, tax breakdown, and line item information is actually present in your invoice. So I'll not be going more into details about each of these segments. So this is what the ASP will be required and processing. So you're only, as part of the customer readiness process, I would recommend that you do double check your invoice and ensure that it's there or not. JBM does have this information, but however, if you have any other ERP solution, you'll have to check with the respective team and ensure that this information is there or not. If it is not there, then you have to ensure that it is implemented within the system. So what I've done is I have linked a PDF which has directly come from the FTA itself, where each of this information will be there and an explanation of what is actually expected from the buyer, seller, or the user itself. So once the session is done or once the presentation is requested for, I can share it and you can just click on this link. It will redirect you to the PDF that will give more information on this. So it's quite detailed. Actually, going into all of this will take quite some time, or maybe we can have another session on this. But this is just for information purpose, which the ASP will be using and verifying. Yeah. So the next session will be about understanding JBM's UAE invoicing. So right now we'll be deep diving more into JBM's readiness of e-invoicing and how our users will be able to seamlessly go into the e-invoicing framework. So before I get into what exactly we're doing and getting into the small details of how it's going to work for you all, I'll just explain a little bit about JBM's experience right now. So actually speaking, JBM is not new to the e-invoicing concept or framework. We have currently implemented e-invoicing in multiple countries. We have implemented it in India, in Malaysia, in Saudi Arabia, and in Kenya as well. So we are well aware of how, I mean, the compliant requirements of various countries. So already the e-invoicing framework is available. So there is a solid foundation for the e-invoicing framework. So like I mentioned over here, we have multi-country experience for e-invoicing. So currently our Indian clients, Saudi clients, and multiple clients around the world who are where e-invoicing is already implemented as we have already supported them in establishing this. Furthermore, we do have a proper billing and finance ecosystem as well. So there's a matured process where you can easily process your sales invoice, your purchase related invoice, and all of this is connected through our JBM Cloud Central platform. So this is something that I will be explaining in the coming slides. And of course, we do follow an API-driven architecture over here. So our system is properly, integrated with one another. We ensure that the invoicing process or the submission is seamless and smooth as possible. Along with that, not just the submission process, we also ensure that our users have the visibility of their e-invoices, whether the posting is done, how many have been posted in that specific year, if there were any errors or cancellations, all of that visibility will be there within our ERP solution. So coming to JBM's e-invoicing, so I'll go a little bit slow here so that you can understand this a bit better, and then we'll take up questions towards the end of this webinar as well. So as I mentioned earlier, we already have a good amount of experience in this. We have implemented it in multiple countries. So how does this framework work? How does our software solution actually support this framework? So we have a couple of aspects or features that actually helps in this e-invoicing process. So firstly, what our JBM users would be able to do is you will be getting a self-service portal. So we're happy to announce that we will be launching a customer-specific self-service portal where our customers will get access to this portal. They would be able to view the services e-invoice being one of them, and you can subscribe it, you can activate it, you can pay for it, and then of course you can manage all your cloud-related services through this portal. So these services that we're giving are called as Cloud Central Portal. So it is independent from the current products or modules that you have. It's independent. So these are additional services that we're giving through our Cloud Central platform. So the question comes, what is JBM's Cloud Central? So JBM Cloud Central is an initiative that we started, which basically is the heart which connects and manages these cloud-related services. So e-invoice is one of the services that we are providing to our Indian clients, of course, Indian clients, Kenyan clients, and Malaysian clients as well. But we are providing another suite of services for our customers to stay compliant and future ready. Some of them being, of course, e-invoice services, like I mentioned, AI assist related services, where you can start using AI related services for uploading BL or processing purchase invoices, payment gateway related services, and recently even the MPCI based services. So clients, obviously, the question does come, how do they get access to this? The answer is very simple. You will be given a self-service portal. If you are a JBM user, you will be given a self-service portal for you to easily track, subscribe, activate, and manage these cloud-related services. So I'll show you a glimpse of how the user experience will be down the line and the timeline when you will be getting all of this. So through this dashboards, you'll be able to see the services that you have subscribed to, how much you have utilized, how much is pending, and even for cancellation as well. So I'll just go through it towards, for all of these initiatives in the coming slides. So another good news that we wish to tell you is that, JBM is very happy to share that we are actually in the process of becoming an ASP, which is an accredited service provider. And like the process is not very simple, I would say. It is, quite a lengthy process. And although there are a lot of other solutions which are already there as an ASP, but JBM is in the process of becoming an accredited service provider. And, we're already halfway there. So there's a lot of process where you will need ISO-based certifications and system readiness and compatibility and being part of the Open PEPAL network as well. So there are multiple steps into this, which I'll not get more into, but we're in the process of it in the certification process. And our tentative readiness date is end of July 2026. So by coming next month or by the end of July, we should be appointed as an ASP, and even in your Imara tax portal, you should be able to see us as the accredited service provider. However, we also now we already know that the rollout timelines is starting from 30th of October 2026. The larger organization or larger businesses or the phase one entities can start appointing their ASPs. So it has been pushed to 30th of October 2026. However, given these readiness dates, we can assure you that you can, we'll announce that once we have been appointed or once we have the ASP based certification, and once we're there, you can start appointing us as your designated ASP. However, we do realize that some of the clients would want to start the e-invoicing implementation process. So for that reason, we also have our preferred partner option, which is Taxila. So you can, who's already available for ASP appointment and available for customer onboarding. So you can appoint them as your ASP partner. However, of course, what we would suggest is that, if you are appointing another ASP, you would have to intimate us long beforehand itself, because additional integration will be required in our solution, which may have some charges as well. So when JBM becomes an ASP itself, then your process becomes more seamless and more efficient. So this is an option that is there, but however, the recommended approach would be to appoint JBM itself as an ASP to ensure that you have uninterrupted business continuity. So now we have already discussed the 5-corner model, and it's okay if it's a bit difficult to understand, it's all right. But why I have designed this diagram is because we wanted to show you how, as a JBM user, how your journey would be throughout this process. So I've made slight modifications and I've just created this diagram to show you how the JBM's user journey would look like. So if you are a JBM user, whether a seller or a buyer, all right, so you would be, of course, the corner 1 and corner 4 itself. So like I mentioned earlier, you would slowly get access to the customer or the self-service portal, where the e-invoice service will start showing up, and you can subscribe for it, you can pay for it. And once that service or the Cloud Central service has been enabled in your system, the process remains exactly the same. For our JBM users, of course, you are already creating invoices, you are creating your purchase journals as well. So the process remains the exact same. The only thing is, when you're creating that same invoice, our system, based on your subscription to our service, would automatically submit the e-invoice through our system and directly to the FTA itself. So I will show you a small video of how the user experience would actually look like. So this is something that I wanted to explain as well. So once you've subscribed to it, of course, the invoice gets submitted through JBM, through our Cloud Central e-invoice gateway. So there is a gateway that we have set up for multiple countries, because we have implemented it for quite a lot of countries as well. So through this gateway, actually, with JBM as an ASP itself, we will be able to process, we'll be able to validate your invoice, and we will transmit it to corner 5 and corner 3 as well. All right. So once JBM becomes an ASP, this process would be much more seamless and efficient. So it's the same process itself, but JBM would be doing all of this validation, transmission, and submission of e-invoice directly through the open PayPal network all the way till corner 3, which is the buyer ASP. So of course, even as your buyers as well, you might be wondering, okay, whether they have the same ASP or they'd be having JBM as an ASP or any other ASP. The framework remains the same itself. It's just that, like I mentioned earlier, the validation does take place beforehand itself. So the sender ASP, regardless of who it is, will be checking whether the buyer or the customer is already there within the PayPal network. Only then will the transmission take place. All right. So even if the buyer is also using another ASP or you are using JBM itself, you would be able to capture that information through the data received from the ASP. And JBM is also happy to announce that we will be soon launching in E-Invoice AP dashboard as well, where the invoices would get captured within your solution directly. All right. So this is where corner 4 comes into picture. And again, the process remains the same itself. So questions might come, okay, even if you appoint us as your ASP down the line, will you have visibility to it? Will you be able to see whether your e-invoices have been submitted or not? If there are issues or corrections that come back, what would happen? So for that, to answer your questions, I'll show you how the user experience would look like. So let me just quickly play one video, just increase the volume a little bit so that you can hear it, yeah? Don't worry, if there is any request for replaying this video, I can do that. It's a small 1-minute video. So yeah. Okay. So just to briefly, like if you weren't able to watch it, I'll just slowly walk you through how the process will look like. I'll just mute it so that I can speak over. Right. So as you can mention, this is basically the UAE invoicing experience within JBM. So as a JBM user, I think you all would be aware of how the creation of invoice actually takes place within JBM. So that's the first process, which remains as is. Followed by, of course, the process remains the same. You create your invoice within JBM itself. Once that is done, once you start saving the invoice, automatically our system will prompt for a message saying that your invoice has been saved and do you want e-invoicing to be generated automatically. This is how it would look like. So it will show you a pop-up saying that e-invoice will be generated. Do you want to continue? And you can press on OK. If you have not pressed on OK, then you can submit the e-invoice manually also over here, and you can see the status whether it has actually been posted or not. Okay. And yeah, these are just the steps that explain that. And it will show you. So if the posting is successful, it will show you a clear-cut message saying that e-invoice has been generated successfully. And there will be an acknowledgement number also that will come for each e-invoice that you submit. All right. So this is a view of how the e-invoice AR dashboard would look like, because right now the video that I've shown you is from the perspective of a seller who's issuing the invoice. So in this e-invoice AR dashboard, you would be able to see how many you have filed this year, how many e-invoice you have submitted, how many have been posted, how many have been cancelled. And this grid would show you all the details of your customer tax ID, office, document reference number, and whether your e-invoice has actually been posted or not. Okay, so there are different tabs also available here where you can go between cancelled e-invoice or posted e-invoice, pending, etc. You can even view the details if there are certain information where it is not processed or it's failed. The status will come clearly in this particular screen. So once you go to the posted section, I think in the earlier part we had posted one specific invoice. So you can see that, the e-invoice gets posted successfully. Furthermore, you can even click on the view option, which will show you the acknowledgement number. So there is a number that is given for the e-invoice submission date. So for later on, for audit related purposes and all, this will be very important. So down the line also, if they want to verify whether or what all e-invoices have been submitted or not, these details will be very, very important. So we have given date filters, we have given different, tab options where you can easily filter out your e-invoices, how many have been filed this year or not. So that traceability is very clearly there. Right. So this is how the user experience will be at JBM. This is just from the seller point of view. Buyer point of view also, you'll be able to receive your invoices, purchase invoices through the AP dashboard. Okay, so in the next segment, we'll be covering up the operational impact. So now we discussed more about JBM's readiness, what we have done currently in the market, how it's going to look for, how it's going to look for our users as well. So what are some of the next operational impacts and next steps, right? So before I go into this as well, there might be questions from non-users as well. So if you're not a user of JBM, once we have the ASP accreditation, we will be providing ASP-based accreditation service, which will be a separate package itself. So you can contact our your respective account manager or the sales team for more information. But those details we'll be releasing it down the line as and when the timeline comes. So what is your first step is, of course, the process of choosing an ASP. While most of you might already be aware of it, I will still walk you through how the ASP selection is done. So I think you all would be aware of the Imara Tax portal. So logging into that through your organization's credentials, you'll be able to log in. Right now, they have introduced a new service under the dashboard called as E-Invoicing services, where you can navigate to this and an E-Invoicing option will come. Furthermore, there will be an option to choose an ASP. So there will be a list of all the pre-approved ASPs and you can select your preferred provider. Authorization. So selecting an ASP is not just selecting it and the process is done. It will redirect you to the ASP platform where they will verify your company's tax details and you will be assigned a PEPAL ID. So each seller, buyer, any organization who's going to start appointing an ASP, you will require a PEPAL ID so that, the e-invoicing process will be proper in the open PEPAL network. Otherwise, without this, it will not be possible for the transmission. But this PEPAL ID will be assigned by the appointed ASP itself. Furthermore, your ASP gets appointed and there is an option within Imara Tax portal. If you want to deselect or deappoint a specific ASP you have selected, you can also do that as well. So how JBM is going to support our users? We will be giving you continuous ASP readiness updates. So given the timeline, so we will give you the ASP readiness updates and what type of services we'll provide. The issuance of PEPAL ID, of course, once we become an ASP, automatically the PEPAL ID also does get issued for your organization. We will have a dedicated implementation team, training material support for ensuring that you have a guided onboarding experience and a proper integration support will also be available. Also, we will give you access for testing, activation, and ensure that there is proper and appropriate customer communication to our clients. So as an organization, what do you have to do or what are some of the things that you'll have to consider? First is regulatory readiness. Ensure that your TR and TIN details are there. Always keep track of FTA's latest related announcements because every few months there are new changes, there are new guidelines that they will issue. So always keep track of the FTA's latest announcements and check your compliance-based obligations as well. So ensure that your master data is ready, supplier master data is ready. So address information, you have to ensure that all information is up and ready. So to ensure that the e-invoicing implementation is seamless, the invoice readiness as well. So it's not just your supplier and customer master data. Of course, you'll have to review your invoice formats, whether it has the necessary mandatory fields. If not, you'll have to intimate your respective ERP provider as well, and ensure that the billing information is also standardized. And of course, just keeping this ready will require some ownership and responsibility. That is why ensure that you have dedicated people in your organization. Basically, your finance team has to be aligned on this. Who will be approving this invoice workflows? There should be some sort of ownership and responsibility to ensure that this invoice process is seamless, and someone who can be a proper point of contact to ensure that this process is happening within your organizations, or to respectively contact your ASP or your ERP as well. Not only that, yeah, and the last step, of course, is right now is the ASP appointment. So the actual implementation will begin from 1st of Jan 2027. So there is, of course, a timeline, but it's better to be prepared earlier itself than later. So you can understand the ASP requirements. So appointing an ASP is also, it requires a lot of evaluation and compliance, like some compliance related obligations are there. So you'll have to evaluate it properly to ensure that whether your ERP solution can integrate that ASP, or as JBM itself, we are an ERP based provider. So if you appoint us as an ASP, so the process is again seamless only. And of course, prepare for the onboarding activity. So of course, this is going to be a big digital transformation for everyone. So it's going to be seamless, and once the implementation actually takes place, a few hiccups might come in the beginning, moving into this digital tax transformation. But rest assured that it will be seamless down the line itself. So this is the last slide. So this is getting more into the JBM's roadmap for implementation, which might be a lot of questions and queries from you all. So the first phase is the self-service portal launch. So between 20th to 30th of June, this month itself, by month end, we should be able to, for our JBM customers, we would be able to give our customer self-service portal launch. So you can get access to it, and you can, of course, the e-invoice service will not immediately be available. It will come down the line, of course. I'll mention the dates as well. So ASP accreditation, like I mentioned earlier, our tentative readiness date would be 31st of July. We'll keep you intimated about it. And once done, of course, you can start appointing us. Furthermore, the commercial readiness, so the pricing and the services enablement in your self-service portal by 30th of August. This is just a tentative date. Of course, dates can change. It can come earlier also. So this is where you'll be able to, your account managers or your self-service portals will be able to share it'll show you the e-invoicing services and how much it actually, and the pricing for it as well. Customer onboarding. So we are expecting that once we start getting our clients onboarded, the process to ensure that your data is up to date, ready. If there is something missing, all that evaluation will take place. So between 10th to 25th September, at least a 1 month buffer it would take to ensure that you're all up and ready. Because even if you appoint us as an ASP, your ERP solution or JBM will have to have a set of preset configurations, or prerequisites are there, or the masters are there to set up before we actually start the implementation process. And finally, go live and support. The date is by 1st of October 2026. We should be going live with all of our clients, and you can start your e-invoicing filing implementation and process as well. So just wanted to mention that this webinar has been conducted to give you more knowledge about the e-invoicing framework and overview. And just to say that JBM is there, we are in the process of being an ASP itself. We're working very hard to ensure that our clients will not have any disrupted business continuity. So we'll ensure that everything goes as seamless and as possible. And we're already there in the market for multiple countries. So rest assured that even for UAE as well, given these timelines, we should be up in there, and our clients will have a smooth experience in this e-invoicing transformation. So thank you very much for attending this webinar. Thank you for this one. I think we'll give another 10 to 15 minutes time for buffer, so you can ask your questions in the chat. I have some of my colleagues here as well. I think Mr. Abhishek Mr. Sunil and Mr. Ajay and Mr. Satyadas also might be available on call. So we'll try taking up your questions one by one. Furthermore, if you have questions or requests, do send us an email through support and we'll be able to help you out with it. So let me just come back. Right. Right. So let's just open the. Okay. So right now we're opened up to questions. So you can start asking your questions. Let me open it up. Just a second. Okay. So let me just start. Please post your questions. So I'm just posting it in the Q&A forum. Just see if you're able to get access to it and start. You can start open your Q&A tab, and I think there you can start asking questions. Otherwise, we'll go back to the chat itself because it will get spam. But okay, fine. Let's open the chat. Okay, so some of the questions have come. Whether you will get access to this PPT, yes, we will give. I will share a PDF of this presentation. You will get access to, you can watch the video. I've also given links to the FTA's PDF on like your mandatory fields, etc. So basically you can check that as well. We will forward it, don't worry. Let me first check whether our organizers are here. I think, hi, Mr. Satyadas, you're available, right? Hello, you just check if you can unmute. So some of our team members have joined from the organization. However, I'll take up the, let me just view the question. Actually speaking, since this is a webinar, we have preset it in such a way that we have not enabled the audio. So if you can just mention it on chat also, we can answer your questions. Is it mandatory for all organizations over 50 million revenue to have e-invoicing? So if you have 50 million revenue, I mean over 50 million revenue, by 30th of October 2026, it's not E&O shouldn't be implemented. You should appoint your ASP. Okay. So if you're coming under a phase one entity, you should start the implementation process by 1st of Jan 2027. So your ASP appointment deadline is still 30th of October 2026. So you will have November, December, a couple of months time to ensure that your system is ready for the e-invoicing submission. And from 1st onwards, the actual invoicing submission will take place. Any other questions? Just a minute. Okay. We have got a question. Can a submitted e-invoice be edited after it has been submitted? Okay. So this question does come frequently. After the e-invoice has been submitted, you cannot, I don't think there's an option for editing back again. The only option would be to cancel that invoice. So we'll have to understand how you're planning to edit it. Are you editing the the tariff item or the invoice detail item? So it really depends. So generally speaking, once it is submitted, it does get posted. However, if you want to reverse that and issue a new one, you'll have to submit a credit note, an e-credit note instead, and then resubmit your invoice. What is the procedure for correcting errors in a submit? So like I mentioned over here, your appointed ASP would be able to validate your invoice in the beginning itself. So if there is some kind of data error, it would be able to capture it and correct it. However, if the submission has already taken place and the error is maybe in some of the data that you have updated, or maybe the amount might be wrong, in that case, it does get submitted. The only option is you'll have to submit an e-credit note to cancel the previous invoice and then resubmit a new one. That is as per the mandate. But again, if changes do come, I'll definitely let you know. Thank you for the question. Next question. Okay. Can we invoice to overseas companies? So so you are the seller in UAE, so of course you are giving to this, and I'll have to check on that. But to overseas companies, so this question I'll have to ask you whether the overseas company, have they registered for VAT in the UAE? So if your overseas companies or your buyers are registered for VAT within the UAE, then yes, they do come under the scope of e-invoicing. However, if it is a complete, foreign company that is not having business, then no. On the process of credit notes, how does that? So it's the same process itself. So the question has come is for credit note issuance, how does the e-invoice get submitted? So I think you're all aware that, even in JBM as well, we do have screens such as credit notes and sales return screens. So the process remains the same. It's just that when you're issuing the credit note, the option will be given to submit the e-invoice as well. So it will happen within the system itself. The process remains the same itself. You don't have to do any additional step, just create the e-invoice itself. Next question, we are using JBM, how to appoint ASP. So yeah, like I mentioned, if you are using JBM itself, like I mentioned, JBM is in the process of becoming an ASP. So the recommended approach would be to appoint us as your ASP. So by next month, we'll communicate with you. And once we are already an accredited service provider, we'll announce it to you and immediately you can start appointing us as your ASP through the Imara tax portal so that, your process remains seamless as possible. If this is less than 50 million, can you complete the question, Mr. Matthew Joes? I think you've asked just a statement if this is less than 50 million. So I'm assuming your question is if this is less than 50 million, do you have to start the e-invoicing implementation by end of October? No. Like I mentioned, if you are less than 50 million, if your organization is having less than 50 million in annual revenue, your ASP appointment deadline is 31st of March 2027. So till 31st of March 2027, next year, you have time to appoint your ASP and you will start going live by 1st of July 2027, which is next year. So e-invoicing actual implementation for you all will take place from 1st of July 2027. Okay. Overseas companies invoices, how will it be verified? So in the sense that I'm not clear with the question, are you asking about how it will be verified in PEPAL or through the ASP or whether they're coming under the scope of e-invoicing? If that is your question, just correct it so that I can clarify with it. You can also consult your tax consultant or advisory whether you will, for overseas companies, where are you coming within the e-invoicing framework or not. But this is just, I'm just sharing an information. Check with your overseas companies. If they are registered for VAT within UAE, then yes, it will still come under the e-invoicing scope.
Hello, Smriti.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to answer this.
Yeah,
For
please go.
overseas, if they are connected to the people network, okay, they can file the invoice for the overseas parties also if they are connected to the people network. Okay, and the other thing is if they are not connected to the people network, the overseas parties, only the TDD, which is your tax document, will be shared to the FTA. There won't be any corner three process for this overseas party if they are not connected to the people framework.
Thank you, Ajinkya. So there's another question as well. What are the consequences facing for backdated invoice submission? So I think I'd mentioned in the penalty slide as well. Once you issue the invoice, you will have to submit your e-invoice within that 14 days framework. Otherwise, penalties will start coming once the e-invoice is implemented. So you'll have to check before it goes into implementation. You'll have to check with your finance team as well and your tax advisor as well to ensure that backdated invoice. So once this is implemented, there's only 14 days time period until once you've issued the invoice. Within 14 days period, you will have to start submitting your e-invoice itself. Is there an acknowledgement or reference number received from FT after submission? Yes, there is something called as an MLS, like I said, message level status, but that goes to the ASP. So if you would like to see an acknowledgement or a reference number, that is issued by the ASP itself. So if you saw the video that I was showing how the JBM's experience will be, you can see that there was an e-acknowledgement number. So each e-invoice that you submit or track will have a respective acknowledgement number to keep traceability for it. There's the next question. Is it real-time submission? Backdated invoicing is not allowed. Ajinkya, can you answer this question? A lot of them are asking whether backdated invoices will be applicable for e-invoicing once it's
No,
implemented.
no, 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 that won't be allowed.
Yeah, so this is a
mandate.
real-time submission itself. So once like I mentioned with the dates, once the e-invoice dates have actually, implementation dates have begun, it is real-time submission itself. So as you saw in the video itself, when you're saving the invoice, your system should be capable enough to post the invoice to FTA itself. All right. So even if it doesn't happen and you want to wait for some time, like I mentioned, there is a period of 14 days within which you have to file it. If it does not happen, you will have a penalty of, I think, AED 100 per day for not complying. Backdated invoicing, no, it will not be allowed. That's why UA has decided to go into this framework to avoid this as well. Okay, so I think you were answering. Good luck. Overseas company not registered in UAE. Okay, okay, fine. So Ajinkya, the question I think is, if there are overseas companies that are not registered within the UAE, that means that they will not come into the PayPal framework. So will they come under the e-invoicing framework or not?
Okay, this PayPal framework is available in lot of countries. If those countries like the overseas belongs to that country which has a PayPal network, then yeah, they can receive the invoices through that PayPal network.
So next questions for the companies who are not registered with the e-invoicing, how we can submit. Registration, there is no specific process for registering for the e-invoices. It is applicable for the organizations if you have come under the scope and applicability. If you're wondering about the first step you would have to do is if you have your valid like TI and TRN details should be there. And second thing is check in your Imara tax portal. I mean, the first step would be to appoint the ASP. So it's okay. There is no issue as such. So like I mentioned, once JBM is there as an ASP, you can start appointing us as your ASP through your Imara tax portal, and then automatically you will come into the e-invoicing framework. Next questions, how can we verify that no invoices are missing from the transfer process? Ajinkya, can you take over this question? Or Mr.
Yeah,
Satyadas, if he's available in the session. Yeah.
I think we will be having a dashboard where they can see what all pending invoices are there with them,
Okay. So
which
I
is
think is
basically
your
our
question
AI
is
dashboard.
whether, yeah, go ahead, sorry. Yeah, Ajinkya, you can go ahead. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
something.
So that there would be a dashboard where they can see what all invoices are pending, and from there they can track it.
I hope that answers your question. So your invoices will not go missing. So the dashboard will have all visibility of whether the e-invoice has been posted against your invoice or not. Because if you're a larger base organization or mid-size also, you will be having day-to-day basis, there will be quite a lot of invoices that you submit. So in that case, then yes, the dashboard in JBM would be able to give you more traceability and you can start posting it through that as well. Next question, timeline for phase one is 1st of Jan and phase 2 and 3 from March. And later, suppose we are phase 1 and the buyer is phase 2 or 3, will it affect e-invoicing? Okay, so the question here is if their organization as a seller is a phase 1 organization and their buyer probably is a phase 2 organization where the implementation, Ajinkya, begins from 1st of July. So their question is, what will be the e-invoicing flow in this particular stage, like until it's fully implemented? Yeah.
I think that we need to check. We can note this point down and we can
Okay.
later on.
All right. So we will check and research a little bit. It's a good question, actually. Depends on how the organ. So your question is basically if your buyers and all are already phase 2, phase 3, and you are a phase 1 based company or vice versa, how does the e-invoicing flow take place? So that we'll do a little bit of research with our team as well, and we'll get back to you. Thank you for the question. We have we have in-house Jupyter-based server or JBM server. Do we need to take cloud-based services? So like I mentioned, yes. So you already have your JBM's modules or products that you have already, taken licensing for. So for this cloud-related services, including e-invoice, yes, you will have to subscribe to those cloud-based services through our self-service portal, which we will launch by the end of this month. So whatever services are available, you will get access to that and you can start subscribing to it as well. Yeah. The invoice which is verified from ASP, how you will be receiving the invoice through email in the predefined format of e-invoice or in the supply format. Okay, thank you for this question. So if you are speaking from a buyer perspective, you are asking, your question is basically how are you receiving the invoice from the ASP. So even if you appointed your ASP, and depends on what solution you're using. So if you're using JBM itself, you will have a dedicated e-invoice AP dashboard where all your purchase related invoices or something that you have that has been sent from your vendors or your suppliers will get recorded in this dashboard, and you can start seeing all your invoices that you have received through this dashboard itself. So you will be receiving it through a respective dashboard itself, not by email. And it will not come in the predefined e-invoice format. It will come in the format that you require or in JBM's readable format. So it's not as confusing to you. So it will come in your, it doesn't come in the supplier format. It will come in your customer related format in JBM itself. However, again, if if you're using another ERP solution, then it depends on how they are processing this incoming invoices as well. Next question, for air cargo activity exemption, is this under the purview of FTA to conclude this specific company falls under this exclusion, does not have to integrate? See, if your primary activity is air cargo related activity, then maybe yes. Again, you'll have to check with your tax consultant. However, if this is not only your primary activity, you are doing other activities, maybe forwarding or agency or warehousing activities, that is still under the scope of e-invoicing. Okay, so you will still have to uh, implement e-invoicing in your system. However, you just have to exclude any air cargo related invoices from the e-invoicing, but you still will have to implement if you have secondary related activities like forwarding or warehousing. Next question. Just a minute, please. Yeah, sorry about that. Next question, will there be standard tariff items maintained in JBM as per tax compliance before submitting it to ASP? Yes. So that is one of the prerequisites that we have as part of the implementation process. So we will have standard tariff items as per the tax compliance within, it's already there actually, but there are certain other pre-configurations we'll have to do and setups that will have to be done before the submission actually starts taking place. How will overseas company invoices be received by us? Ajinkya, there's a question that, if there are overseas companies that are sending to them, then how would they be able to receive it? So let us say one of our organization or our clients are registered with PayPal, but the overseas companies are not. So in that case scenario, how would they be able to receive such invoices?
Yeah, if they are PayPal enabled, I think they can share the details, e-invoice details. But again, yeah, we need to check how the formatting of those e-invoicing will be received by the
So
UAE
yeah,
people
it really
network.
depends. So if it is coming from a country where maybe e-invoice has not been enabled, or whether they're not part, because they have to be part of the PayPal network, right? So otherwise, the manual process itself goes where the invoice is actually shared with you. But we can research a little bit more on this and come back about the overseas company invoices, because you will be part of the e-invoicing framework. How we will be able to know the overseas and local parties are registered with e-invoices? In the sense, the question is not fully clear. Do you want to are you like, is your question that whether your suppliers or buyers are registered with e-invoice or not? So that is not something that you will have to worry about. This is the ASP's headache actually. So when I was explaining the five corner model, there also it was explained that if you have appointed your ASP and you are within that framework, and if you're submitting it before the transmission of the invoice takes place from the sender ASP to the buyer ASP, the ASP validates and checks whether the buyer is already there with a valid PayPal ID or within the network or not. If they are not there, then it will immediately give you a validation saying that this particular buyer details have not been found. So the submission cannot take place. So you cannot find out whether they've actually registered for e-invoice or not. Through this e-invoice submission itself, you'll be able to find out whether they've actually registered with the PayPal network, whether they have a PayPal ID or not. Next question, is there any changes in the case of same tax group companies? Yeah, for this as well, as per my knowledge, for same tax group related companies, it has been exempt as it's called as intra-VAT group based companies. So for this case, actually, it has been exempted, but only for a period of 24 months, as per my research and my consultation. It has been exempted for 24 months till 31st of December 2028. After which, so you'll have to check FTA's regulations as well, because they can come up with regulations for same tax group based company. But right now, for until 2028, 31st December, it has been exempt. Hi team, is the current V4 version and its current phase fully prepared to meet UAE FTAs? If yes, can an impact assessment be performed on the current JBM version, or would this only be possible once the cloud central platform is enabled? Regarding JBM CC, is it a mandatory component for UAE e-invoicing compliance or an optional additional add-on service? So could you briefly, okay, so I'll explain it to you. So for the first part, I will ask Ajinkya to explain more on this. The second part of the question, I will answer it from Ashwin. So, Ajinkya, the question is basically our current V4 version, are we currently fully prepared to meet FTA's e-invoicing requirements? And if yes, can we do a impact assessment for the clients or for our current JBM version? Can you take up this particular part of the question?
Yeah, we actually are working on that. So whatever the UAE FTA requirements for e-invoicing are there, that we are totally working on our V4 version only. So it will be compatible by somewhere between this August and something, and then we can do a impact assessment in the pilot run.
Right. So the next part of the question is regarding JBM CC. So yes, it is a mandatory component for e-invoicing framework, because that is the medium through which the e-invoicing services will be enabled for you. So this will be mandatory as well. So this is not something that you already have. This is an add-on service, like you clearly mentioned. It is an add-on service, and you will have to subscribe to these services. E-invoice being one of them. Once the commercials have come out and the pricing is available, you will have to start subscribing to it, and then you will start having access to your e-invoicing framework. So we are working extremely hard on our current V4 version to ensure that it is properly compatible and it is ready for the FTA related regulatory requirements. I hope that answers your questions. Another similar question next. We have in-house Jupyter server. Do we need to take? I think I've answered this question. You don't have to take it or anything. It is an add-on service itself, where the cloud service-based services will be listed, and you will have to subscribe to it for a specific band. So, like for certain number of documents or transactions, there will be separate pricing involved, which our sales team will share once by July to August at least. For example, e-invoice has been generated. There's a question, I think. Yeah, yes. Okay. For example, e-invoices have been generated for invoice numbers 1 and 3, but an e-invoice was not generated for e-invoice number 2. Okay. What is the process for generating the e-invoice for invoice number 2 at a later stage? So, Yashwit, so it really depends on the timeline when you have generated this invoice. So if you have generated invoice number 1, 2, and 3 within that within the 14 days timeline, okay, I don't think there is a specific sequencing involved. Of course, I'll have to let Ajinkya answer that. So even if your invoices number 1 and 2 have got a successful e-invoice generation, if invoice 2 is still within that 14 days time period, yes, you can submit your e-invoice, and then your acknowledgement number will be generated. So later stage really depends on the timeline. So if it is within the 14-day period, it is fine. After that, you will be charged 100 dirhams if you have missed it out. So that is why you should have clear-cut dashboards, like how JBM will be giving like AR dashboards, to have clear visibility of what invoices have not been posted or have been posted. That visibility should be there. Next question, as a buyer, can we reject an e-invoice from buyer side? As a buyer, in the sense, uh, you will be receiving the e-invoice through your ASP. So you will get through your ERP solution, you will be receiving the e-invoice itself, because the seller has already submitted. If the question you're asking is, do you want to cancel that cancel that specific invoice or this one. So Ajinkya, I think cancellation will be allowed, right?
As of now, I think there is no cancellation. Only the credit note system is available for
Credit
that.
note system will be applicable. Yeah. So cancellation has not currently been enabled. So if you are rejecting that invoice, you will have to speak to your supplier to send a credit note. Once the credit note has been processed through the e-invoice submission, then they can reissue another invoice. So you cannot reject the e-invoice as such. It will come through the ASP itself that you have appointed. Next, I think we'll take up a few more questions and then we'll wind it up. If you have any further questions, just compile it and email it to us at support@jupiterbs.com. I will ask our team members to also circulate. If you require my presentation with the video clip and the links, it will be available. I'll share it as a PDF to you. Okay, one more question has come. As a buyer can, okay, that is, I think, already done. If customer and supplier is not registered in FTA portal, how e-invoicing will work? Ajinkya, so I think their question is, if they are not VAT registered, can they still come under the e-invoicing framework?
I think that is required, at least for the supplier who is doing an e-invoicing. That would be required.
So you can check with again your tax consultants on this, because even mainland company, free zone companies, all are applicable. If you have a valid TR and TIN details, it is mandatory for this. However, if you are unregistered, you can check with your tax advisor and then ensure that you are fully available and you have your FTA portal available, because through this FTA portal is where you can actually start appointing your ASPs. Do the existing tariff items and charge codes need to be reviewed or modified to comply with e-invoicing requirements? Ajinkya, you can take over this question. So the question is whether existing tariff items or charge codes, will there be any changes to that?
Yeah, that we need to check. We can come back on that.
Okay, so if there is any change, if you're using JBM and if there are any changes to the existing tariff items or charge codes, we will ensure that the system will be ready for you to implement it. If there are changes, we'll have to integrate that and we'll keep you notified on that process itself. Because, of course, like as and when time is passing, there are a lot of rules and regulations coming in. So once we get more details, we're in the process of ensuring that our current version is compatible with this. So yeah, of course, that also involves assessment of existing tariff items and charge codes as well. So we've got, I think, 3 more questions. So I think this much we will take up and then we will wind up the session because we've taken it a little bit longer. We will share the recording with you as well. And for further information, we will keep you up to date as well. So I'll just take up the last few questions. What is the time frame for submitting the invoice to the customer after the activity has finished? Like I mentioned, 14 days. Within 14 days of issuing your invoice within the system, you should submit e-invoice. Prior invoice generated before completing the activity through e-invoice is possible. So this actually, Ajinkya, the question is, if the invoice has been generated before, prior invoice generated before, so you mean to say these are backdated invoices? I'm not very clear with that aspect, whether it is backdated invoices you're referring to or invoices that you have started, but like you have not submitted yet within the 14-day period. That is something that you'll have to clarify once. Can a non-submitted e-invoice be edited or changed after it has already been generated? Like, I think someone had asked this question earlier and I had answered it as well. Once a non-submitted e-invoice, right? So I think, Ajinkya, within the system itself, they should be able to edit before they submit the e-invoice, correct?
That is possible. Yeah, through our
So
workflows, I think it is possible to
So
do that.
if there is workflow enabled in JBM or any other software solution that you are using and you have not yet submitted the invoice, then yes, you can edit and make changes. If it is once it is already submitted, then changes cannot be done. You will have to issue a like credit note and then reissue again. But if you have not yet submitted and you are still using the normal invoice screens, then yes, you can come and change, provided if you have like workflows and all enabled. After subscribing to the e-invoice services from JBM, do we need to appoint JBM as ASP from FTA portal? So we will give you the self-service portal maybe by end of this month or by first week of July itself. So once you get that that portal itself, the services will come based on the timeline itself. So e-invoice services, we will not enable it immediately. We'll start enabling it. So like I mentioned in my presentation, the commercial readiness by August, we'll start enabling the services and you can start subscribing to it. So it'll be better once you start doing this subscription of the services after we have been accredited as an ASP, which is tentatively by end of July itself. So the recommended approach would be to do this so that you don't have to do additional work in your or additional integrations in the system, because if there is another ASP appointed, then a lot of other additional integration will be required, which is another activity itself. I think that's the last question that I've received. I think I've answered all of your questions. Or if there are certain questions that we have taken note of it. So what we'll do is we'll just research a little bit more and we'll get back and we'll keep you up to date on this. Thank you very, very much for attending the session. I hope this was an insightful session. I hope most of you might be aware of it, but if you are not aware of it, I hope you got some more insights on this session and how JBM is working very hard to ensure that your business stays uninterrupted and we can ensure that your implementation process is as smooth and seamless as possible. I think my colleague Mr. Sunil has also mentioned he has shared his email ID as well, so you can respond to it, or you can even contact support@jupiterbs.com for more further questions. I'll share the presentation as well in a PDF format, and then you can refer to it as well. So we'll have some more webinars maybe upcoming. All right. So I think if most of you have registered, you will get the confirmation as well. But we'll have some more webinars. Once we've been appointed as an ASP, we'll have some more webinars as well. And we'll help you through how the process is going to go through JBM. Yeah. So thank you so much. We will end the session we'll end the session soon. If you have any further queries, you can contact the email IDs mentioned here or even the phone number. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.